Show you how to use something called selective color. Photoshop has something called adjustment layers and layer masks that allow you to change the color of something, but also to take that effect off of certain areas of the image. So what I'm going to do first is make a duplicate of my background layer. I always do this so that I can go back to my original in case I mess something up. So one way to do that is to press Command J on the keyboard. Another way is to drag the layer to the new layer button in the layers palette and let go. So this is the new layers button. You'll see there's a new copy right there. So this image, lots of green colors in the trees, some nice fall colors on the ground, some colors that really pop on the kid on the bike. So what I'm going to do with this is add what's called an adjustment layer. This can be done from the bottom of the layers palette, right here. If you click on this button, you'll see a menu of different options. The first section are solid color fills, gradients, and patterns. Then you have adjustments for exposure, light and dark, brightness, contrast, etc. And next are some adjustments that deal with color. So I'm going to choose Hue and Saturation. And what you'll see when I've chosen that is a new layer in the layers palette. And there are two components to this layer. There's the adjustment component and there is the mask component. So the adjustment component, when that's chosen, you can see there's an area where you can change the different settings that this is going to have. Okay, so I'm going to change by lowering the saturation. You see it takes all the color out. If I go to the left, if I go to the right, it saturates it deeply. Okay, so I'm going to take the color out for now, just to show you how to apply this in a selective manner. So what I'm going to do is select the mask portion of this layer right here. Okay, and you can think of the mask as a clear sheet that's laid over the layer, and what I'm going to do is paint with black to block out that saturation change effect. So I'm going to go to the paintbrush in my toolbox, the brush tool basically, shortcut is B, and I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. I'm going to go up to like 110 or 8, something like that. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in, and basically all I need to do is paint with black to remove the effect of that adjustment. Okay, so you'll see my foreground color is set to black, my background color is white. When you paint with black, it blocks the effect. When you paint with white, it reveals the effect. So if I'm painting and I go off of where I want to paint, like that, I can swap for white by either pressing this little arrow, that will switch the foreground and background colors, or the X key on the keyboard will also do the same thing. So I'm going to make my brush a little smaller, and one thing to pay attention to is the hardness of the brush. A hard-edged brush at 100 hardness will make a sharp edge, whereas a low hardness, down, well, at 0 especially, will be very soft and fuzzy. Okay, so if your subject has a very hard edge that stands out from what's around it, you should use a higher hardness value. Okay, so once again, I'm going to press X, swap back, and paint over Sam, and bring the color back. So the more complicated your subject, the longer this will take. And changing your brush size is very helpful. If your brush is too big, you're going to get a lot of overlap with your background. So just keep in mind, switch it up to make it easier. One thing you'll also notice as you do this is that there are going to be some areas that are actually picking up the color of the background. Anything shiny or bright might pick up some of the background color. So you have to make a decision. Well, that's probably actually his shirt, but I'm going to paint over it and get rid of it. Once you have it all finished, then you can play with your adjustment and see how it looks if you add some of the color back in. In other words, it doesn't have to just be grayscale. You could just mute the colors in the background so that the subject stands out more. So, if I'm happy with where it's at, I think I got everything. I can then go back to my adjustment, maybe resaturate the background a bit. I could also play with this Colorize button, which would let me change the entire hue of the background, basically making it monochromatic, but I can dial in a different color completely, like a sepia tone, this nice reddish brown or cyan, something like that. Okay. Now, this can also be used with more adjustments. So if I command click this, it's going to make a selection of the white area. If I add another adjustment layer while that selection is there, for example, I'm going to do curves. This lets me change, and I'm going to lighten the background. And I can play with this as much as I want. Do I like that? I don't know. I might, and I might not. So once again, that was a command click of the layer thumbnail for the layer mask that makes a selection. Okay. And then when you add a new adjustment layer with that selection there, it basically duplicates the area that you've painted black on that mask as well. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something good here.